Hello everyone, welcome to StudyIQ. So we will continue our discussion on social sector. We were talking about unemployment. So we have completed unemployment and the measurement of unemployment in India. We have discussed about different methods in which unemployment is actually measured. So if you go for a quick recap, what is unemployment? It is a situation in which a person who is able and willing to work at a prevailing wage rate fails to find a job. So you must be able and willing to work, then you'll be part of labor force, and still if you're not able to find a job, then you're considered as unemployed. If you're studying, if you're preparing for this exam, even if you don't have a job, you cannot be considered as unemployed. Okay, so first you need to be part of labor force. What do you mean by labor force? Labor force is the total working force plus number of unemployed. That is the total labor force. Then we have also discussed about this concept, labor force participation rate. That is the labor force divided by total population, okay, into 100. And how to calculate unemployment? If you see labor force, unemployment or employment is calculated upon labor force, right? So total number of unemployed divided by labor force into 100 will give you unemployment rate. So remember, in the denominator it is labor force, not the total population. So unemployment is not measured on the basis of total population. So let's suppose I'm saying 5% are unemployed. It doesn't mean that 5% of the total population is unemployed. 5% of those who are willing and able to work at the prevailing wage rate is unemployed. Okay, so that is what we have done, and we have discussed about different measurements, methods. First one, we have discussed about usual status unemployment, and we have discussed about subsidiary status. Okay, and then we discussed about current weekly status, and we have finally discussed about current daily status, and we have seen some important NSSO data. Okay, so NSSO 2011-12 data. So usual status unemployment, first one, under which you have UPS, usual principal status, and you have usual principal subsidiary status, and we have seen here 2.7% unemployed. Usual principal subsidiary status 2.2% unemployed. I have told you the reason why it is less than usual principal status. Then we have seen current weekly status. Okay, as per current weekly status 3.7% unemployed. Third one, current daily status, we have seen 5.6% unemployed. So first one, the reference period is 1 year, the usual principal status and usual principal subsidiary status. Current weekly status, it is reduced reference period of 1 week. Both measures chronic unemployment. CDS, the reference period is 1 day. Okay, so if you have missed out that video, you can watch that video in this Telegram channel, or you can get in touch with me in this Instagram ID. Now this important NSSO data, again NSSO data. See, Labor Bureau also estimate unemployment. We'll discuss that shortly. Labor Bureau's unemployment survey also we'll discuss, but let's understand this NSSO data. So here, employment growth, I take here elasticity of employment. Okay, I'll tell you what is elasticity of employment. If you remember, in our demand supply chapter, we have discussed about elasticity of demand. All those things we have, in their concept we have discussed, right? So elasticity of employment, it is actually measuring the responsiveness of employment with respect to growth. So how much growth is changing, based on that, what is the percentage, what proportion employment is changing? Is it positive or negative? Okay, so if growth is like 5%, employment growth also 5%, it is considered as good. So in just like elasticity of demand we have discussed, the price is changing, demand is changing or not. Okay, so we have discussed that already. Similarly here, if the growth is changing, whether the employment is created or not, that is about elasticity of employment. Elasticity is low, means less responsive to growth, and that shows the jobless growth. Okay, so less elasticity is actually not good, because it is not responsive. Whether growth is there or not, it doesn't matter. It is not affecting the employment, and there are many reasons the growth is the investment, or the growth is in investment is in capital intensive sector, not labor intensive, and service sector is the major driver of growth. All these are the reasons for the jobless growth in India. So I hope you understood. Elasticity of employment will actually tell you the actual situation that you can compare with growth and employment. Okay, elasticity is less, means that shows you jobless growth. Growth is there, but employment is not created, so unemployment rate is more. Okay, so let's look into 83 to 94 period, 94 to 2000, okay, then 2000 to 2011-12, okay, 2012. So 1983 to 93-94, 93-94 to 99-2000, 99-2002, 2011-12 period. So employment growth here is 2.5 percentage, 1.1 percentage, 1.4 percentage. Here 0.47. I'll tell you how this value I got. Because see, employment growth, what is elasticity? Elasticity of employment, E, I am just writing it as E. E is equal to growth rate of employment divided by growth rate of GDP, right? So I should be telling you what is GDP, right? Then we can calculate it easily. So here it was 5.3, and then here it was 5.8, and here it is close to 7.5. okay, so effectively what you can do is you can divide 2.5 divided by 5.3, 1.1 divided by 5.8 divided by 7.5. So you can actually get elasticity. So 0.47, 0.16, 0.19. See here, otherwise also if you look into employment growth, here 83-94 time it is 2.5. It is actually declined, right? Here it is actually declined, and here there is a small increase you can see. So employment growth actually declined post reform. Immediately, not immediately, maybe in 1-2 years there was some employment growth, but then it was actually decreased. The reasons I've already told you: capital intensive infrastructure or the investment and service sector led growth. All these are the reasons. So unemployment is actually increased or employment growth is decreased. Unemployment increased and employment growth decreased, both are same. But then 2005 onwards, mid 2000s onwards, government started interfering more, and because of that employment growth is actually picked up, or unemployment actually came down because of various programs, MNREGA and all. Okay, so initially the reason why this growth fell down or employment growth reduced is because government intervention reduced. Most of the investment is capital intensive investment, not labor intensive. Okay, so this actually reflect the, you can see the growth rate is accelerated, right? You can see increase in growth rate, but here you see that is not the case. And you can see in case of elasticity also, it is not responsive to growth, and that shows what? The fall in elasticity of employment shows jobless growth. So in mains, if you can capture these contents, it will be really good if you can talk about elasticity of employment and how it is actually coming and all those things. Okay, now let's quickly look into the reasons for jobless growth. Reasons for jobless growth. So first of all, over reliance on market. See, market cannot ensure social justice. Market can only satisfy demand. Market can give luxury to the rich people, those who have money, but market cannot give food for those who are hungry and those who don't have money, right? So demand is there, then only there will be supply in the market. If the demand is not there, nobody will supply. Need and demand is different. You may need food, but you may not have money. So if you are not willing to buy that food, if you may be willing to buy, but you may not be able to buy. Okay, you don't have money, so you are not able to buy, but it is not a demand. Demand means willingness and ability to buy certain commodity. So willingness and ability. But in this case, sometimes a beggar, if you take, he may be willing to buy food, but he don't have money. So that won't create demand in the market. Nobody will produce for him. Okay. So over reliance on market, actually one of the reason for, you can see poverty also increased. We have discussed already. Post-reform era poverty increased, and that's the reason why government interference is actually increased from mid 2000s onwards through different schemes. Okay. So reasons for over reliance on markets. Then as I've already told you, capital intensive investments. Capital intensive investment. Government investment actually reduced. Government investment as well as expenditure reduced. Okay, and then adverse impact of MSMEs. adverse impact of MSMEs, that we have already discussed when we discussed about globalization and impact of globalization adversely impacting the MSMEs, and that is actually affecting the employment situation in India, and that is having direct connection with poverty. So we have seen the analysis that post 1991 poverty increased, unemployment increased because of this. It adversely affected MSMEs. And then one more thing, government developmental expenditure actually reduce marginally. When I say developmental expenditure means, let's say MGA and RAGA. Okay, so when I'm saying marginally or in real terms it is decreased. So I would write here developmental expenditure decreased in real terms. You will see, let's say 100 crore is allocated this year. Okay, and next year 105 crore is allocated. You may see there is an increase, but here 100 crore, if you see inflation will be more than like 10%, inflation is there, means it has to be 110 crore, right? Effectively if you see, it has to be 110 crore. So 100 crore, what all things you can buy, if you want to buy that now, you need 110 crore. So 105 crore is actually less. Secondly, this 110 crore, maybe if you take the budget, it may be out of, let's say 2000 crore. I'm just taking this value 2000 crore. Okay, and this may be in 3000 crore. So you can see as a percentage terms also it is decreased. So percentage wise also there is a reduction in developmental expenditure. Real terms also there is a reduction in expenditure. Percentage term means not much change in the expenditure, but the budget is big and allocated funds for other things. Secondly, real terms is because of inflation. Okay, growth mainly led by service sector. Okay, so if you want to have this small analysis, okay, of unemployment rate, the pre-reform, post-reform period, it is like this. We can see pre-reform period, okay, and that is let's say 1983, then 1993, 94 time. So just the reform is actually implemented, so not much impact have been seen till 93. Okay, now 99 2000, this is during the reform time, right? Then 2004 5, 2009 10, and then 2011 12 will take. So let's see the unemployment rate, CDS, current daily status. As I have told you, this is the most comprehensive measure of unemployment. So unemployment rate under CDS, if you see here, this is 7.3%, and here it is 6%. So you can see here immediately after the growth, immediately after the reform, what happened? Unemployment actually decreased. So you can see here unemployment decreased. It is actually a very good sign. But does that sustained in future is what we need to look for. So 6%, then you will see 7.3%, 8.2%, and then 6.6%, 5.6%. So what I want to convey you here is, you see here immediately here you can see some decrease, okay, but then unemployment rate is actually increasing here from 6 to 7.3 to 8.2. The reason, as I have already told you, we have discussed these reasons. Okay, adverse impact on MSMEs, government expenditure, capital intensive investment, over reliance on market. Because of all these, the unemployment rate increased, rather employment growth is actually decreased. Now what the government will do, government understood that the market cannot ensure social justice, government intervention was required. So government started interfering positively in the market and come up with many programs, MNRG and all from mid 2000 onwards. Then you can see unemployment is actually decreased and further decreased, and it is decreasing. Okay, now it is declining. Okay, so here increased because of these reasons. So post reform, what happened is what I've told you, exactly the same as what you can see in case of poverty also. Here you can see some reduction, exactly the same pattern, because unemployment and poverty is connected. If you're unemployed means automatically you're poor, right? Then you can see an increase in poverty because increase in unemployment. Then you can see decrease in poverty because government intervention was there. So this is how you can make the connection between employment and poverty. Now change in unemployment. Why this change in unemployment? There are two factors which depends change in unemployment. First one will be the employment growth. Okay, so first one will be employment growth. More the growth or the more the opportunities, less unemployment will be there. So first factor of change in unemployment is definitely employment growth. Second one, growth of labor force. See, as I've already told you, unemployment is measured in terms of labor force and not population. So if the labor force is growing rapidly faster, unemployment rate will grow faster. See, now the advantage, the thing is that most of the people are studying, but after some time, all these people who are studying will be part of labor force. Then we'll be facing a big problem. This demographic dividend that we are actually having will be a big headache for us in the future if we cannot manage these properly. Okay, so we need to go for more employment creation and more opportunities has to be created, and different government programs are there. We'll discuss that under social sector schemes. Okay, so growth of labor force and employment growth, these two are actually affecting the change in unemployment. This is more important. You have to understand it. Okay, the demographic dividend may be a burden in future if you are not able to tackle the situation properly. Now we will quickly discuss about Labor Bureau's 5th Unemployment Employment Survey 2015-16. Labor Bureau's 5th Annual Employment or Unemployment Survey 2015-16. See, as when we discussed about NSSO, what is a labor force? Labor force was between 15 to 60. So this age group is what we have discussed when we discuss about NSSO. Now here, as per Labor Bureau, more than 15, all will come as part of labor force. That means 85, 100, even 100-year-old person also, if he is willing and able to work, will come as part of labor force. So age criteria is just more than 15. It can be any. So obviously unemployment rate will be more here because more labor force are participating. More labor force means more unemployed will be there. Job almost remain stagnant, static. Okay, so more unemployment you can see in this case. So first let me draw the column. I need a LFPR, labor force participation rate. I need a worker population ratio and proportion unemployed, and then we will see unemployment rate. Okay, so let me explain what are these. LFPR, as we have already discussed, we all know LFPR is what? Total labor force divided by total population into 100. So LFPR is labor force divided by total population into 100, and labor force, as I have already told you, working population plus those who are seeking employment, that those who are unemployed will be part of labor force. The worker population ratio is the workers upon population, total workers divided by population. It is calculated on the basis of population. Okay, out of total population, how many are employed into 100. Okay, so next one, proportion unemployed. That means out of the total population, how much is employed and the percentage. See, unemployment is different. Unemployment is not out of total population, that is out of labor force. Here, see, the common thing in proportion unemployed and unemployment rate is numerator is common. In both cases, unemployed people will come in the numerator, but in proportion unemployed, it is out of total population. So unemployed divided by total population. If it is unemployment rate, unemployed divided by labor force. Okay, so proportion unemployed divided by total population into 100. Similarly, unemployment rate, numerator is same as I have already told you, unemployed divided by labor force into 100. So these are four things that you need to remember, you need to know. LFPR, we have already discussed it, labor force participation rate, worker population ratio, proportion unemployed, and unemployment rate. Okay, and one more thing, as per NSSO, what is the labor force? 15 to 60. Here, everything, anybody above 15 who is willing and able to work at the prevailing wage rate. Okay, so now let's calculate this. We'll see rural, urban and total unemployment trend. We will also see female and male also. So rural, urban, total. Then again we'll see male, female. Okay. So LFPR rural 53. Okay. This is 43.5. Total 50.2. So labor force is 50.2 percentage. What does that mean? Out of the total population, 50% is part of labor force. 50% is excluded from labor force. Okay, that means when we calculate unemployment, we'll calculate upon those 50% only. So worker population ratio 50.4, 41.4, 47.8. Okay, so 47.8 percentage is worker out of total population. 2.7, 2.1. Now you can see here the difference will be unemployed, right? So that is 2.5, because 47.8 is the worker population ratio. So 50% is the population who's part of labor force. So rest of them, see, out of this 50.2 only this many is working, no? Out of total population, 50.2% are ready to work. Out of that, this many is there. So you will get 2.5 here. Okay. Now unemployment rate 5.1, 4.9. Now what will be the unemployment rate here? See, proportion unemployed we got 2.5. So from that, can you calculate unemployment rate? What is common here? Numerator is common in both, and in proportion unemployed it is total population. Here it is labor force only, and we already understood labor force is half of total population. So what will happen with the answer? Answer will be doubled, right? Because denominator is halved. So unemployment rate will be double of that of proportion unemployed. So it will be 5. So I'll get 5% here. So I hope you understood what I did. Otherwise, you can directly write this. Okay. Male, if you see 75% LFPR, 75% of male are part of LFPR. Okay, female 23%, and that itself is actually the biggest problem. Only 23% female are ready to work. Forget about how many are employed. Okay, 23% out of 23% only ready to work, whereas in case of male 75% is part of labor force. And worker population ratio will be even more worst, 72.1%. Everything is in percentage, and this is 21.7%. This proportion unemployed 3, 2.1, 4, 8.7. So I just want to show you this thing. Okay, most importantly this one, labor force participation rate among female, it is actually very less. So if you are part of labor force, then only you will be getting job, right? So here job worker population ratio is also less. Okay, but what is the reason? Reason is this actually, labor force participation rate is very less. So from this, what you can conclude is, you can see here unemployment is slightly high in rural area, right? You can see 5.1 here and 4.9 here, just as in case of poverty. I've already told you poverty and unemployment, you can correlate many things. So here unemployment is more in rural than in urban, slightly similar to poverty. Okay, poverty was also more in rural area. Now another thing that you can see here is LFPR is also more in rural area. More people who are ready to work is in rural area, because in urban area many people are related to education, so they are not part of labor force. In rural area LFPR is more. So LFPR is more. Now again, one interesting thing that I can show you here is this one, worker population ratio. See, unemployment is high in rural area, but worker population ratio, if you see, more in rural area. What do you think will be the reason? In rural area many people are employed in agriculture, so even a small piece of land will accommodate any number of workers. One family, one person can cultivate in this land. In case of 5 members are there in this family, entire 5 members will be accommodated in this land. The marginal productivity will be 0. That is what you call as disguised unemployment. We'll come to the different terms later. But here the point which I want to tell you is, in rural area worker population ratio will be high, despite the fact that unemployment rate is low, or unemployment rate also high. The reason is all the people are accommodated in the agricultural setup. Now unemployment rate, obviously it will be more, opportunities are less. Okay, and if you ignore those people who are part of disguised unemployment, here actually this one person can work here. If 5% is working, still the product is same. So out of this 5, 4 are actually considered as unemployed. Okay, so if you remove disguised unemployment, it will be even more worst. Okay, I'll give you one time use survey. Time use survey. That means in terms of number of hours. Okay, number of hours. Men's share in paid work. Okay, in terms of hours, and we'll see women's share in unpaid work. Okay, that household work is what I'm talking about. Unpaid work means household work. Okay, so we will see world average and in India also. So men's share in paid work is 1.8 times that of women's share in paid work. So here we are comparing it with women share in paid work. Men's share in paid work 1.8 times higher than women's share in paid work, and women's share in unpaid work is 3 times higher than men's share in unpaid work. Okay, so in case of India it will be even more worst. This is 2.2 and this is 9.6. So women's share in unpaid work is 9.6 times than men's share in unpaid work. So here also you can see men's share in paid work is 2.2 times more than women's share in paid work. So one woman is getting paid means 2.2 men is getting paid. One man doing unpaid work, 9.6 women doing unpaid work. Okay, 9.6 times. So I hope this is clear for all of you. So this, if you have any doubt here, you can get in touch with me. This is my Instagram ID. You can join the Telegram channel for all the economic videos. Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ. So we will continue our discussion on social sector. We were talking about unemployment. So we have completed unemployment and the